15 years, blowing the doors off the competition. Podcasting to planet Earth.
PNRNetworks.com.
This podcast is a member of the Blueberry Network. Blueberry. No E's. That's Blueberry, BLUBRRY.com. Blueberry.com.
This podcast is a proud member of the Lamb Podcasting Network. Find the network at largeassmovieblogs.com.
Subject Cinema with T.C. Kirkham and Kim Brown. Show teaser in 3, 2, 1. Cue teaser.
Honey.
Yeah?
Time to the show. Where are you?
In the kitchen. I got inspired. I'm baking.
Oh, no. What are you doing?
I'm just finishing up. Hold on.
Sorry about this, folks.
Here I am.
In here. There she is.
Okay, here.
What the hell is that?
Well...
We can't eat all that. That's going to take us a week.
Well, we've got brownies and blondies and cake and pie.
Yeah, but it's all baked goods.
Yeah.
Where's the pasta, the seafood, the soups, all that stuff? It's all not all about baking, you know.
You're cute.
All right, well...
I did make you blondies.
Yeah, you did.
Oh, one more thing.
Yeah?
Don't go in the kitchen just yet.
Oh, boy. All right. Well, fine. We're deviating from cinema, as we sometimes do on this show, to celebrate the 20th anniversary of one of PBS's longest-running cooking shows. Mm-hmm. And it's all going to be here, right now. I'm T.C. Kirkham.
I'm Kim Brown.
Stick around as Subject Cinema says, happy birthday to America's Test Kitchen.
And bon appetit.
Wrong show.
Yeah, but it's food.
Connecting to server. Connection confirmed. Connecting to website. Connection confirmed. Adjusting lights to preset level. Adjusting sound. Adjusting volume. Recording.
Real movies for real people. T.C. Kirkham and Kim Brown. Subject Cinema 2020.
Hey everybody, welcome to another week here on Subject Cinema. I'm Kim Brown.
Oh my God! There are chocolate chips on the ceiling! Ah!
And that's T.C. Kirkham, who I told not to go in the kitchen.
What on earth is wrong with you?
I got inspired, I told you.
We don't have Spider Pig to clean the ceiling. Honestly. I'm T.C. Kirkham.
I said that already.
I know. Welcome to Subject Cinema number 645.
Yay.
Day and date, January 26, 2020. This month marks a very big anniversary on PBS.
Yes.
And it's what we're talking about right here.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure that this intro will be very familiar to you. Yes, if you haven't seen America's Test Kitchen, you're probably living under a rock. America's Test Kitchen premiered in January of 2001 on PBS stations across the country. The first season was only 13 episodes, but it was successful, and now they are celebrating as the second longest-running single-titled show in PBS history. Only Ciao Italia with Marianne Esposito has more seasons with 26.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, Julia Child and Jacques Pepin and Lydia Bastianich have all been around longer, but they didn't have single-titled shows.
Right.
Julia did a number of different shows, so did Jacques, so is Lydia. So America's Test Kitchen is celebrating its 20th anniversary. This is not bad for a little tiny show.
No.
Out of a little tiny office for a well-respected but little tiny non-profit magazine called Cooks Illustrated, which was manufactured, written, and done in a little tiny building in Brookline Village, Massachusetts.
Yep.
Right off one of the Brookline Green Line stops.
Yes, it was. They've since moved.
They have moved a couple years ago. We'll talk
but
about that in a minute.
It's still in Boston. So.
Yeah. The food as television, as an entertainment, never really took off until the late 1990s. Food Network had started in early 1990s, but it got a huge boost when one of the cable companies merged, and they suddenly found themselves with 70% more households.
Right.
This was at the time when Good Eats, Iron Chef, Jamie Oliver, and a number of people were staples on the network and just exploded it. And that helped PBS also. And in 2001, American Public Television, I think it's called, or APT, and the other companies that distributed came to PBS with a little show based on the Cooks Illustrated magazine, made by their editors, called America's Test Kitchen. 20 years later, the show is celebrating its 20th anniversary as a phenomenon. It's an institution. I don't know what we would do without it. Of course, I say that having met a number of the people who work there, and it's a great deal of fun. Do you have your funky shoes on?
No, I don't know my
let's start off by talking about, I admit, I love food cooking shows.
Can I bring
I worship America's Test Kitchen.
Can I bring up the fact that if I tried to walk in those funky shoes, I would fall over?
We'll explain that.
If I tried to sit in those funky shoes, I'd fall over.
Well, a few years ago, we did a parody of Test Kitchen to promote the show, and Kim played a character called Jamie Funky Shoes, and it was based on one of the four stalwarts of the show. The show has had a number of regulars since premiering in January of 2001, but there have been four people who have been with it from the very beginning. Jack Bishop, who is the chief creative officer of Cooks Illustrated America's Test Kitchen, is best known for his mischievous smile as he conducts the taste tests with the various hosts. He's also in charge of that in the magazine as well. Adam Reed is the equipment maven. He knows, he tests everything sometimes to death. I mean, I get a kick about how they over-test. It seems like over-test to me. Some of the stuff that they test for, food processors to pans to little kitchen gadgets. And there have been two people in front of the camera behind the stove that have been with the show since its very beginning. Julia Collin Davison, known as Julia Collin before her marriage, which happened between seasons 6 and 7, is the woman that we call Julia Funky Shoes.
Yes.
Julia, when we met her at an ATK open house, had just bought these green. Were they green?
They were orange.
Orange polka dot shoes.
Yeah.
And Kim was like, "Oh my God, I love your shoes," and we had a 10-minute conversation about Julia's shoes.
Now,
it was freaking hilarious. She's so funny.
For people who know me, would be like, "Wait,
you wouldn't wear them.
Kim
But you thought they looked great on her."
Well, no, they'd be like, I think most people who know me, like know me personally, would be like, Kim noticed another woman's shoes.
This is true.
Kim Brown noticed another woman's shoes.
They were kind of hard not to miss.
Because I never look at shoes or purses or that kind of stuff.
Hey, Julie, if you still have those shoes, let us know.
Yeah, they were amazing. They were just the most amazing shoes I've ever seen.
Funny
and she was so happy. She was so like, "Oh, thank you," and we just got to talking for a minute.
We got the distinct impression that people made fun of some of the fashion choices she had.
You were looking at me like, "What just happened?"
The fourth member of that quartet of people that have been there from the beginning is Bridget Lancaster. Bridget originally grew up in the the bio keeps saying she grew up in the South. She didn't. She grew up in West Virginia, which is bordering on the South, but it's kind of East Coast South bordering.
Well, do they consider themselves Southern?
They do have Southern cooking there.
Right. Well, if they consider themselves Southern, then they're Southern.
She's the executive head of the Test Kitchen School and also of the television stuff. These four people have been around for the whole enchilada.
Yeah.
And they're always fun to watch. Now, Test Kitchen had a little bit of a brouhaha in 2016 when co-creator and original creator of Cook's Illustrated magazine, Christopher Kemble, left the company in a contract dispute.
Yep.
From what I understood the reasons why they didn't sign a new contract with him, because he was basically creating Milk Street without leaving Test Kitchen.
Right.
Milk Street is his current series and his current business, which is also in Boston. Chris was the head. He was the host of the show for the first 16 seasons, and Julia and Bridget were the main cooks. Now Juliet and Bridget are the main hosts, and they have a host of other people around them, as well as continuing to cook themselves.
Yep.
In 2018, would you say that their Brookline headquarters was cozy?
No, I'd say it was cramped.
Claustrophobic.
No, I'd say it was cramped. Can I tell this part?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So they had an open house at their Brookline studios.
It was in October 2004.
Mm-hmm. And TC found out about it, and he was all excited. He was like, "Oh, we have to go."
Well, I've been a fan from day one.
And I was like, "Sure, let's do it." So we hopped the Green Line after work and went down there. And we walk into the place, and it's like, okay, this is really nice. And, oh, wow, we've seen this place on the show and stuff like that. And the kitchen location was fine.
Yeah.
The kitchen location where we had that amazing brie that we never got the name of. Oh my gosh, that brie was so good.
Delicious, and one of the test kitchens chefs we asked about it wasn't sure what brand it was.
Then we get to one of the other sections of the place.
Well, it wasn't. We went through it going in. It was when we came out and saw everyone else had arrived.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure, when it's not full of what seems to be the entire population of Brookline, Massachusetts, I'm sure is a terrific place to walk around, and was a terrific place because they've moved.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it seemed like there was the entire population of Brookline, Massachusetts, stuffed into this exceedingly small space. Guess which one of us, out of the two of us, has claustrophobia?
I wasn't terribly comfortable either.
I'll give you a hint. It's not him.
Because we had to go up this long, cramped stairway to get there. And it was narrow, too. But, you know, I was there 6 weeks later for an actual cooking course I took in food writing, and it was much better. There was only 15 people there, and we were sitting in the library, and we actually got to cook in the test kitchen.
It was like we were there. We were in that part of the room with that many people for maybe about 10-15 minutes, and I kind of grabbed you by the hand and was like, "I need to go."
Yeah, and I was like,
now.
"Let's go." I could understand it, because I mean, this little place had about 300 people in it, and it probably shouldn't have had more than 110, 120.
I mean, everybody had,
of the show's success.
Oh, yeah.
It was only in its fourth season.
Everybody was super nice that worked there. Everybody that was there, mingling around and stuff was super nice. And this is no slagging on anybody there. It's my own hang up. But I get in super crowded rooms, and instantly my brain goes, okay, we got to go.
At that one particular point in time, we also met Jack Bishop, who was a very nice man.
Yes.
We didn't speak to him as long as we spoke with Julia, though. And Christopher Kemble was there hosting the thing. We didn't really meet him. He was just there. Yeah, I did meet him and talk to him when I had my class there a few weeks later. He's your typical Vermonter, very, very, which he's very proud of, and he brings out on the show there, and also still on Milk Street.
Well, I mean, if you're everyone should be proud of where they're from. Yeah. I mean,
but it did.
And Vermont did give us Ben and Jerry's. So
it did get awkward there at the end for them. But Julia and Bridget stepped up and have done a terrific job taking over the host job. And ever since they've moved at the beginning of between season, because they shoot their season in just 2 weeks in April and May, and it doesn't air till the following January. The new shows start in January. So they moved in between the 17th, 18th season to the, what's it called? Innovation and Design Building at Boston Seaport. It is this massive new complex, and the new place is just beautiful.
Yeah. To put a little bit more spin on that for those of you who are not from this area, the Boston Seaport area has gone through an enormous renovation.
In the last decade, it's turned into a beautiful place. It used to be a hellhole, pretty much. I mean, well, it did. I mean that in a bad way. I mean, like any, rundown, well-worn seaport, it was gritty.
It was gritty. And they've completely...
And now
it's got a total renaissance happening now.
Now it's like the yuppie capital of the Boston area.
I didn't want to use that term, but,
But it's a great place. Other people that are currently on the show, over the years, we've seen a number of other people, including Doc Willoughby, who was part of the show for the first 3 seasons, dropped out for 3 seasons, and then came back. He's still behind the scenes, but we don't see him very much. And in the early days, Kay Rentschler was also there. She was one of the 3 test cooks, along with Julia and Bridget, that first season. I don't know what happened to Kay. She left after the first season, and I haven't really kept track of her. And over the years, a number of familiar faces have shown up there from the Boston food scene. Kenji Lopez Alt has his own restaurants here now. Matthew Card and Erica Bruce now appear with Christopher on Milk Street. There's also been a number of other people over the years, but the solid cast since about 2014 also includes Dan Souza, who is the executive editor-in-chief of Cooks Illustrated, who took over that role when Chris Kemble left.
Yep.
Lisa McManus, best known as Gadget Lady. And if you haven't seen her stuff on the website, some of it is absolutely hilarious. For some ungodly reason, they hired an animator named Odd Todd for 2 seasons to do their science stuff when Doc was not around. Kim thought they were brilliant. I couldn't stand them from the beginning. I
liked Odd Todd.
Stand. It's Squiggle Vision. I hate Squiggle Vision. And it was just too droll for me. I'm sure that drollness appealed to Chris Kemble, who has a very droll sense of humor. Over the years, in the last several years, we've also had Becky Hayes, who is usually seen doing vegetarian or seafood dishes, although she does do a few other, not very often. Erin Mcmurdo, who I also met when I was there for my class, was on the spinoff for a while now. She's over on Test Kitchen. She traded places with Brian Roof, who is now over on Cook's Country, which we'll talk about later. Keith Dresser and Elle Simone are 2 more recent regulars who have become very popular with the fans. And Lan Lam started on Cook's Country and moved to Test Kitchen 2 years ago. This team has been together since the 19th season, or 18th season, and hopefully they will continue to be, because they're all very entertaining, and they do it very well. Basically, Test Kitchen's whole thing is making food for real people. There's nothing wrong with Julia Child if you're going to go out of the way and do that. I mean, there's nobody that hasn't said that Julia's recipes are not exquisite. They're also expensive and often hard to do. Test Kitchen has strove to do simpler versions that are dynamite to eat. And I got to be honest, I've got a number of their cookbooks in my library.
Yep.
I have tried quite a few of their dishes. Every single one of them has turned out perfectly. So it's like these guys know what they're doing.
Was the recipe you used for the shrimp scampi?
Shrimp scampi
that was theirs?
Was voted this recent on their 20th anniversary special, which aired in December, and you can see it on their website. Was voted their number 1 recipe of all time.
I can see why.
It was season 18. Julia and Elle having a lot of fun making shrimp scampi, and it was unbelievably good.
It was.
I mean, I've had my share of different scampis over the years at restaurants and stuff, and they're usually like the former, like Julia said at the beginning, and not this exquisite, creamy, delicious stuff that we got at the end of this recipe. It was just amazing.
Yeah, he made that for us for
Christmas Day.
Christmas Day. You made them, and he served them in these little puff pastry things. Oh my gosh, you guys, I am not kidding. That was the best Christmas dinner I've had in years.
Yeah.
I was like, I went like and posted it all over Twitter, not pictures of it, because I'm not one of those people that posts.
Didn't you post a picture? I thought you did.
I don't think I did.
Maybe not.
I don't know why I don't do that, but I don't. But I will always brag about the fact that when it comes to cooking, he's the person that cooks. I'm the person that bakes.
I love to cook.
It all works out well.
Love to cook.
And like you said, you went to see them
Yeah.
And by yourself for the class.
I had a class. I took a class in food writing in 2004 from Boston University. And one of the things we did was go to the test kitchen. We were expecting to just talk about what was going on. And Chris Kimball was a little taken aback. I don't think he knew it was an adult education thing. He thought it was regular. But we got to cook in the test kitchen, which was one of the biggest thrills ever in my life. Unfortunately, nobody was there that we knew except for Chris and Aaron, who I knew it was his executive assistant at the time, was there too. Met both of them, and they're very, very interesting people. Very much like they come off on television. Very terrific. Chris made this incredible recipe for everybody to try that I've also continued to make over the years, Chipotle lime shrimp. Oh, it is just amazing.
That is
you
so
tell me like the shrimp dishes
good.
from Test Kitchen?
Oh my gosh, the Chipotle lime shrimp is amazing. If you ever find that recipe, definitely make it, but
look it up on the website.
Use fresh lime.
Don't use. We made the mistake of using bottled lime once, and it doesn't cut through the.
It was too hot to. It was too hot to eat. And also, if you're going to make the Chipotle lime shrimp, just short story. If you're going to make the Chipotle lime shrimp, and you're going to have other people there who've never had it, try and warn them that it does have a little bit of kick to it.
We didn't have a chance. Jan grabbed one, popped it in her mouth before. Ooh, shrimp! Before we even had a chance to tell her, it's hot.
Yeah. That was my cousin. Sorry, Jan. I didn't mean to set your mouth on fire like that.
That they have on a couple of their things I've made separately for my
And you had a biscuit
noodles.
Recipe, too.
I had a biscuit recipe that's just dynamite.
That was really neat how they did it, because you were like...
Each group of us, there were 12 or 14 of us, each group of us were split into two people making this biscuit dish, and each one of them had something different from along the path of the test kitchen results. We were second from the top. We didn't have the butter for the top of the biscuits. You didn't need it. They were delicious. I mean, it would have been great to have it.
I don't know how
we had enough to bring home.
Yeah, so. I don't know how you made it home and not ate all of them.
Oh my God!
Because
she devoured them.
Because they were so good. Oh my gosh, they were ridiculous.
Yeah. Also, their sausage ragu was excellent.
It's a good thing they didn't have Uber back then, because you would have just been sitting there in the car eating them all the way home and come home with an empty bag.
I wouldn't have.
I would have.
We're gonna talk a little bit more about some of the recipes, some of our favorite bits from the show, and the fact that they are the only successful show to have a spinoff right now. And we'll talk about more of that
when Subject Cinema returns.
Should it really be Subject Cinema, or should it be Subject Food?
Or Cinema Kitchen.
Cinema Kitchen, there we go.
Welcome to the Really Awful Movies podcast, a celebration of low-budget cinema.
There's another apocalyptical prediction about to come true. The winds of death will sweep across the world, and whole continents will be cast adrift in an ocean of blood.
Chris, and along with Jeff, we're bringing you the very best and worst of horror, sci-fi, action, exploitation, kung fu, and women in prison movies from the 1970s to today. Be sure and check out reallyawfulmovies.com for reviews, interviews, lists, and terrific movie giveaways.
Welcome back to our salute to America's Test Kitchen's 20th anniversary on Subject Cinema. I'm T.C. Kirkham.
Hi, I'm Kim Brown.
We know this is not cinema related, but
no, but it's
personal
related,
indulgence. So. We do this every now and then. We usually do it the first part of the year when there's no good movies coming out, and or anniversaries. In this case, it's a little both.
And everybody may not be into cinema, but let's be honest, everybody's pretty much into food because you kind of need it. Because if you don't have it, you join the ranks of the living impaired. So,
Kim will tell you, I love cooking shows. I watch a number of them regularly. I'm devoted fans of Ina Garten and Barefoot Contessa. I'm a devoted fan of Ree Drummond.
Somebody else who like the cookbooks you have a lot of.
A lot of both of those. I love Jamie Oliver.
You're welcome.
Although Jamie, thank you. Jamie's kind of drifted off into this healthy, weird stuff lately that I haven't really been that enamored with, but I still enjoy watching his shows. Test Kitchen by far is the show I will not miss.
Nope.
Every Saturday at 3:00 I'm out there. Can I watch my show? Even though I can watch them in advance on the website. I'm a member of their website. I have deluxe membership, so I can go on and see all 20 seasons of that, all 12 seasons of Cook's Country, and everything except the cooking school, which is a separate price. Whenever I want to. It's worth the money I pay for it every year. I pay, annual fee coming up in March. I got to remember that. And it's a blast because I can sit here while I'm eating at the desk if I'm eating, if Kim's watching something or something, and just pull up Test Kitchen and type in garlic and get like a whole bunch of segments to watch. I love the website. Most of all, though, I love the people. The people have made the show what it is. They're so likable, all of them, and everybody loves the rapport that they've had together. You've been watching this with me. You're not as a rabid fan as I am, but you enjoy watching it. And
because sometimes they're making stuff that you're like, ooh, that looks great, and I'm like, nope.
Yeah. Well, not very often.
Not very often,
I'm more willing to try new things than you are in some cases.
No, that's true.
We're both
I will
worried
admit
about certain spices and stuff.
Yeah.
I know you can't have rosemary. I don't particularly care for rosemary. There's a lot of rosemary in some of their dishes, and they,
And if you like rosemary, that's fine.
Whatever.
Some of us don't like. And then
Ina and her damn dill and her capers drive me crazy.
Well, I've actually had capers, and I don't dislike them. And dill doesn't bother. Dill doesn't bother me. I
dill is not bad. It's in small quantities, but I don't like it.
But I think we can both agree about one thing. Kale sucks.
Becky would be tutting you.
I know. But it sucks.
Over the years, it has been so much fun to watch these guys because in the beginning, if you watch an episode from season 1, and they're all online, you can find them on their website, you can find them on Amazon Prime, you can find them in a number of places. It's fun to watch the fact that they're just kind of feeling out the format. At the time, they had not yet renovated the Test Kitchen to what it was when we were there. So it's this kind of dingy, little darker Test Kitchen.
It definitely is darker.
Yeah. And Julia and Bridget and Kay, that first season, were not yet used to being on camera. Neither was Chris.
No.
But they still made it fun. You could tell they were enjoying talking to each other and doing it.
And let's be honest,
it's like watching old friends make food.
Yeah.
That's basically what it is.
Let's be honest, it takes some people a little while to warm up to the idea of being on camera.
Yeah,
not everybody can go out in front of a camera and just be
Martha Stewart.
Yeah. Or, be comfortable in front of a camera.
Who I've actually grown to like in recent
certain
years.
people who certain people in the room tend to refer to as a camera slut. That would be him talking about me.
I wouldn't call you that.
You have called me that. What are you talking about? But it takes a while to get comfortable for some people. But when they do, you have real magic.
And it is magic. Even with some of the cast members, it hasn't lasted all that long. They still were great on camera. Tim Chen was only around for one season. Yvonne Ruperti and a few other ones have come and gone, and they were great. They were only in 1 or 2 episodes each. That's been more common on Cook's Country lately than on Test Kitchen.
Yeah.
And it never fails to see, you always know that Julia and Bridget, even since stepping into the role of host, have a great sense of humor because they just have great chemistry and they are truly good friends off set. And
you can tell.
And you can tell they all, even though Chris Kemble is no longer there, he has said, and Jack Bishop has said, that they still see each other about once a week for dinner. They're still friends. There was a great chemistry between all of them. Adam Reed has a great sense of humor when it comes to I'm sure that man probably pulls his hair out, some of this testing he does with his calipers and his, his temperature gauges and stuff.
The poor people that are part of his crew that we've had to see do some stuff that I'm like, are we watching a cooking show or is this one of those Japanese game shows where they make people do
you should
crazy
see the
stuff?
Online stuff. They have original stuff online too that, the testing stuff is funny as hell because it's usually done by Lisa McManus and I've forgotten the other lady's name. I'm sorry. And they're wicked funny. I mean, usually they're so funny because they're tossing things on the ground and doing it's usually some kind of like gadgets or equipment.
The one that sticks out in my mind is the one that they were doing. One of the ones they were doing about there's a couple that stick out in my mind. One of them was the one about the packs that are supposed to keep things cold.
The cold packs. That was just a couple years ago. Yeah.
And that they had people walk around with them for hours and walk around the neighborhood. I'm like, oh, that must be fun. The other one
they were testing cold packs for keeping sodas and meat and stuff cold in for picnics and stuff. And you know what ended up winning? Ice.
Yep, plain old ice. Nature always wins.
Although they did find that the green one, the one that looks like Scope, was the winner.
Yeah.
And it's a green liquid type stuff. Yeah, that was...
The other one that I remembered that I was like, and this is when they were still in Brookline, so I was like, oh, their neighbors must be loving this, was when they were testing ice cream makers.
The noisy ones, yeah.
Yeah. There was one of them that I was like, you know what? It's probably easier to build a car.
I just watched that
than
again
to deal
last
with.
Week, actually.
It was like this ice cream maker that was like, you had to do this, that, and the other thing, and
they
rock
were looking
salt
at the
and blah, blah.
old-fashioned ice cream makers, like you make, not like the electric ones, like the Cuisinarts and stuff, but the old-fashioned ones. And this one had a motor you had to put on, and you had to take it on and off to stir the ice cream and make sure the rock salt was all perfect. And it was noisy.
And it was
God,
loud.
it was louder than Inus Juicer.
It was like somebody putting a microphone right up to the back of a revving motorcycle. It was that loud.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I hope nobody in their neighborhood has a baby they just got to go to sleep, because...
Yeah.
Oh,
some of the recipes they've come up with over the years, they've gotten more... Test Kitchen does do fancy stuff occasionally.
Yes.
With the De Croix, which took up a whole show, which is rare. It's usually two things a show. A De Croix is this extremely delicate cake made out of layers of meringue and cream. And, you know, I don't like meringue. You're not particularly fond of that kind of meringue. And yet by the time they were done making this thing, Julia was, I don't know how she has the patience to do some of this stuff. I mean, of course, we know they trade in and out for the TV segments, but actually doing it would take hours and even days in some cases on pizza dough and stuff. We both said, my God, that looks awesome.
Yeah.
I'd love to try it. There's no way in heck I'd have the time to make it, though.
Nope.
They really do.
I don't think either of us have the steady enough hand involved, because you have to be able to, like, put the layers just so, and I'm not sure either of us have hands that are steady enough to do that.
Yeah, their whole thing is, on some of these is, and Chris Kimball has kind of stolen this and taken it back to Milk Street with him. You're trying to make fancy dishes in a way that you can make them on a Tuesday night for your family in under an hour. And so many of them are just mind-blowingly good. The chemistry between the cast makes it all worthwhile.
Yeah.
And it comes out in some of the weirdest ways. I'm just trying to think back to some of my favorite segments and the chemistry. The one segment I have watched more often than anything else in the show is from, I think, season 11 or season 12, when Jack Bishop had Mr. Sensitive Palate, Christopher Kimball, tasting extreme hot sauces.
Yep.
Kimball is not a hot sauce fan. He's not a heat fan. And they were doing just regular hot sauce, and then Jack pulls out this bottle of something called 1492 Cauterizer.
Yeah.
Made from habanero peppers. And says, you know, I'll take it with you. I'll eat it with you. They put it on rice and eat it. I have never laughed so hard at this show ever. It was so much fun. Chris was getting enormous joy out of Jack suffering from some of this stuff, number one. And it was the look on Jack's face when he actually tasted this stuff, which I'm sure he did in testing too, or maybe not that, but the other ones. It was priceless. I sit there, I never fail to completely lose my crap when I'm watching that segment.
I'm sorry, not for nothing. I mean, I may not know much about I kind of grew up as a sheltered person in a suburban town, and I haven't seen a lot of the big wide world. But even I know that the idea of putting something with the word cauterizer in your mouth is a bad idea. That is a terrible idea. And the crazy thing is, that one was made with, what did you say, jalapenos?
Habaneros.
Habaneros. Okay, yeah. It wasn't made with any of those mutantly hot.
No, that is one of the mutantly hot ones.
Yeah, but it's not as hot as like the Carolina Reaper and the Ghost Pepper and all those.
Yeah, but
those things are like
really hot. I think that was what
those things are like mutantly hot.
They are.
You know, those are things that they have to use gas masks when they
I
cook.
watch Man vs. Food too.
So, you know, it's like the tasting segments that they've done, the taste test segments, they can actually be the funniest part of the show. Simply because when you're doing a taste test for something, you have to... not everything you can do a taste test for is something that you can just, you know, pop it in your mouth and go nuts, you know. You like if you're tasting chocolate, you know, you have a chocolate bar and you just put it right there and that kind of a deal. But if you have like baking chocolate, you really can't have somebody eat a piece of baking chocolate. You can bake it into something and have them eat that.
That's what they usually do,
but
not
all,
for the testing.
And then you have to watch, and then you have to watch poor Julia swig fish oil.
No, it was Bridget.
Bridget, sorry.
It was fish sauce.
Fish sauce, yes.
And it was. I was just going to get to that.
Yeah.
That was Bridget's very first taste test as the host of the show from season 17 or 16. And it happened at 7 o'clock in the morning, which she admitted that she was talking about this on the anniversary show.
That'll wake you up.
Oh, my God. I mean, it's the look on her face when doing this was so funny. And now I know why, because, I mean, you couldn't wait till noon to spring this on her, Jack? 7 o'clock in the morning?
Honey, I don't think you could have I don't think you could have done that at 7 o'clock, noon, 3:14 in the a.m., it would still have been disgusting, like no matter when you did it.
Oh, well, we mixed it into this and this and this for that.
Not this time.
You have to taste it straight, you know. And
no,
they do
not
this
this
every
time. Oh, no.
I think the one that's come closest to the hot sauce segment, in a different way, is also comes from Julia and Bridget's first season as hosts, the Sticky Buns episode. They talked about this, too, on the anniversary show. It was number 3 or number 4 on their all-time favorite episodes. Number 1, the recipe is super simple for something as extensively hard as sticky buns can be.
Yep.
That's not the problem. The recipe was great. When it came out of the oven, Bridget just lost her mind. I mean, literally lost her mind. She was making all these comments about, because she literally went through on camera 2 full sticky buns in what looked to me like less than 30 seconds to a minute. She was just using any excuse she had to take another big bite of these things. Julia is standing there laughing so hard she's beet red, tears falling down her face. It was literally one of the funniest things I've ever seen. And even Bridget refuses to acknowledge that she was still there. She said, I don't know what happened. It snapped. I mean, you know, I'll have what they're having, you know, and stuff like this going on.
Well,
popping sticky buns in their mouth, and it was just a riot.
We've both been there. We've both been there. And probably everybody else out there who are hearing this podcast, you've been there. Don't lie.
Yeah.
You've all been there. That one time when you take that one bite of whatever it is, and you just kind of almost melt into the seat. You're just so, oh my gosh, this is so good.
But there was a difference.
Yeah.
You're not on camera filming a show for millions of people to watch.
Well, that's why they call it food porn, babe. If you're gonna,
yes, I know.
If you're gonna call it food porn, you might as well have a food orgasm, and why not on the same channel that has Sesame Street?
I've never seen it
quite as, but
kidding. It was a riot.
It was hilarious. It was
the
absolutely
two of them
hilarious.
talking about it on the anniversary show.
Because it was real.
It was real. They didn't rehearse it. I mean, you know, they have to rehearse this stuff, and they switch out stuff to do the segments. They don't really spend like wait 10 minutes for this to rise. They get the next load and go right back into shooting.
Right. Can you imagine how much it must be terrible though to be a person working there? Sometimes
Keith and Aaron do most of the prep work for behind the scenes.
When I say terrible, I don't really mean that. What I mean is, could you imagine coming into work and you've just started your diet?
Yeah.
And it's like you smell like bread baking or, some really amazing meat dish or something like that, or chocolate, whatever, and you've just started your diet, or you're just, trying to get ready for bikini season and stuff like that. Yeah. That's wow.
Another great thing about the chemistry was the chemistry that Chris Kemble developed with then pretty new TV test kitchen chef Brian Roof. Mm-hmm. Chris had this habit of, I don't know, Brian looked almost afraid of him sometimes during that first season.
Yeah.
But he was, Chris had this habit of, being Mr. School teacher, I don't know if I'm going to like that, blah, 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 blah. And they made it
That's what you want to hear from
routine,
your boss.
But they did it as a routine, and it worked brilliantly.
Yeah.
And Brian later moved over to Cook's Country, which we'll talk next segment about.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, there was a great chemistry there. And I mean, not that Chris didn't have great chemistry with everybody.
No, he did, definitely.
Becky can always be counted on to be bubbly. She clearly likes most of her stuff. And again, one thing that comes to mind with Becky, just from this last season, was their attempt at cooking French-style scrambled eggs. If you don't know how that's done, it was done on the very first season by Kay Rentschler, and then they've updated it for the new season. And Becky and Julia are standing there, and she's promising, because when you make French-style scrambled eggs, they're very low heat, very hardly any heat at all, and you just let them slowly come together so that the curds resemble more or less cottage cheese in a yellow sauce. And they're supposed to be very good. Some people don't. Well, you don't like eggs anyway.
I don't really like eggs. I can't even look at those things.
I love scrambled eggs, but not that. And Becky's telling her, it'll come together. It's going to take 3 segments of 3 minutes each, and it'll slowly come together. And 2 segments, they come back, and Julia's standing there. I don't see anything. I don't see any action. Oh, I swear it's going to happen. It's going to happen. It was. I don't know if they planned it that way, but it was really, really funny, and it made it a lot more palatable. I don't personally. To me, that's uncooked eggs, and I'm just that way. I can't stand the eggs unless they're all at least solid in some way. Mm-hmm. And these are
firm,
like creamy.
Yeah,
they don't have to be firm; they just need to be solid. And I'm like, okay, this is what it's.
I guess one person's creamy is another person's slimy, because that's all I get from looking at those things. I was like, nope.
Dan Souza's had his moments too. My favorite bits with Dan do not occur on the television show. They occur in his web series on America's Test Kitchen's YouTube site called What's Dan Eating? These things are so funny. He makes these hilarious, and I mean, some of the things he's had on there have been, are you serious? How to make homemade butter using cultured cream. How to do an egg, a sauce, a yolk sauce, an egg yolk sauce you can literally keep in your refrigerator and pour it on things. Yep. I still haven't tried that. I got to try that one of these days.
I know
you need a sous vide machine though. And I mean, it's just everything they do is great. Lisa, like I said, Lisa McManus's stuff. They just this past week posted a hilarious video of Lisa making popcorn in a wok. She did it right the first time. Showed how and then for fun, and don't try this at home, they decided to use the wok to make popcorn without a lid.
Yep.
The popcorn is flying all over the test kitchen. It's falling in between the burners and all over the floor.
Yep. To the tune of the 1812 Overture.
Well, no, that's actually in a separate clip. They have that separate, but the actual clip doesn't have that. And she's like, I'm going to get so much trouble for this. And I commented on the website. I'm like, yeah, like Julia, Bridget, Dan, Adam, Jack, Elle, the rest of them are standing over there glaring at you, tapping their foot. No, they're not. They're standing behind out of camera range, laughing their heads off. I know they are.
Because they're not the ones that have to clean it up. That's what you have. That's what you have interns for.
In 2008, Test Kitchen did something that had never been done in quite this fashion. On PBS, they launched a spin-off series. Mm-hmm. And it was, by this point, it's the highest rated show on PBS, cooking. And millions of rabid fans around the world. And so they decided to launch a new show that was shot in a house that they bought in a small Vermont town, especially for the production.
Yep.
Cook's Country, when we come back.
Don't go away. Subject Cinema. We'll be right back.
All movies, all the time. Subject Cinema.
Hal, if you love movies, you should listen to the Cavebabble podcast.
I'm afraid I can't do that.
Why not? Do you have a problem with Eric and Valerie?
I think you know what the problem is just as well as I do.
If they promise to cover more science fiction films, would that help?
This conversation can serve no purpose anymore. Goodbye.
Hal. Sometimes I feel like we are from different circuit boards. If you change your mind, go to cavebabble.com or subscribe to the Cavebabble podcast on iTunes.
All movies, all the time. Subject Cinema.
Hello, and welcome back to another edition of Subject Cinema. I'm Kim Brown, and today we're dealing with the Chicken Sisters.
What on earth is wrong with you?
I don't think we have that kind of time.
I'm T.C. Kirkham. That was Kim's not too bad imitation of Julia Child.
It wasn't perfect. I'm sorry. I'm not Meryl Streep. What do you want?
No.
What do you want for nothing? Right?
Well, it's going to give you something to do.
Yeah, I know, really.
Anyway, we're talking about America's Test Kitchen's 20th anniversary. In September of 2008, the company launched a spinoff. This had not been done. Other than the sequel series that Jock and Lydia and all the other ones.
Right.
This was literally in production at the same time and remains in production at the same time as Test Kitchen every year. It's called Cook's Country from America's Test Kitchen, was part of the original title.
Yep.
It had the same cast, Julia Collin-Davison, Bridget Lancaster, Adam Reed, and Jack Bishop, along with Chris Kimball, for the first several seasons. And then when Chris Kimball left, Julia and Bridget took over as hosts of that show as well, and they don't cook so much anymore in there. They do occasionally, but they rely on a great new team of people around them, which includes Brian Roof, who moved over from Test Kitchen. He flipped places with Aaron Mcmurdo, who was on Cook's Country for the first several seasons. Christy Morrison, Ashley Moore, and more recently Lon Lamb, who just jumped over to Test Kitchen. And this season, Lawman Johnson and Natalie Estrada are part of the show. And the Cook's Country is different in the fact that it usually has focused on comfort food.
Yep.
It's specifically comfort food. Although, in the last couple of years, they have branched out into slightly more fancy versions of comfort food. You can get, this is the show.
Well, nobody ever said comfort food can't be fancy.
No, but it's supposed to be easy. This is supposed to be easy comfort food. And now they no longer shoot in Vermont. They shoot in a set that's been built at the new facility, but it still looks like the old Cook's Country.
Right.
The difference between Cook's Country and Test Kitchen, other than the recipes, is the taste test segment, which is done in front of a live audience.
Yep.
Chris Kimball, I swear,
who also do a taste testing because they will tell who's ever doing the testing, well, you pick the same thing as the audience.
Yeah,
or
they
whatever.
do the testing, and then Chris Kimball has to come out and not embarrass himself the first few years, and now Julia and Bridget are rotating it.
Yep.
And Jack usually tries to screw with them because he knows that he has a live audience to embarrass them in front of.
Oh, I think that's a little mean.
He's admitted it on up front with Chris.
All right, fine. Sorry, Jack. Tried to save you. Sorry.
Those segments are usually brilliantly funny, and Chris is very opinionated when he gets in front of the live audience. So is Julia. Julia's, Julia and Bridget both able to pick out stuff they use at home when they taste it, which is a really great trait to have as a chef. Not when you're testing something as generic as a certain kind of cheese, and you immediately know that that's the brand you use at home.
Right.
That's not.
Well, I
easy
don't
to
know
do.
if you. I mean, some people can do that. I think you could do that if somebody gave you like 3 different bottles of a soda that you like. You could probably tell them, well, this is this is this, that's that, and that's that. Even if you couldn't see the
sodas
label.
are different though because they all taste different.
Well,
Cheetos do too, but not in the same.
Yeah, but I'm
I mean,
saying
when you're
like
talking about-
cola. If somebody gave you like a Coke and a Pepsi and something else,
They all taste
like
different.
a generic thing, you could probably say that's Coke, that's Pepsi, that's
RC.
from Market Basket or whatever.
But I just think it's interesting with that.
Yeah, it is. No, it is. Well, when
This
you work
show
with
is
something
heavy.
for so long,
The show is heavy on chicken, potatoes,
chocolate.
and chocolate.
Not all at once, because
no.
that's just wrong.
There are some great potato recipes. They've made these crispy garlic potatoes.
Mm-hmm.
This great Lighthouse Inn potatoes. I still want to try those.
Yep.
From I think that was which one of them? It was not. It wasn't. That was Ashley's home thing. They've made 7 or 8 different types of fried chicken over the years. They've been making specialty pizzas lately. They've been doing some great, just basic meat dishes.
The one that I saw that I was kind of head tilting, dog hearing strange noise kind of thing was when they did that polenta. Mm-hmm. And they served it with like a red sauce.
Red sauce,
over
right?
it?
That actually comes out of a VFW in Rhode Island.
Yeah, I was like,
that was Brian's
what?
first big one on test.
Yeah, I was just like that, huh? That kind of threw me.
Another one that just was one of those types that when getting Julia and Bridget together is a mistake was the recipe for Wellesley fudge cake. This comes from I still want to try to make this. It is so decadent and so 3 different types of chocolate, and then like, oh my lord.
Well, I'm sorry, the word fudge and cake are in the same sentence.
And the 2 of them were
so,
rolling their eyes. They were so in love with this dish at the end of it.
There's really nothing else you really have to say, really.
I have to say that I love the fact that they have the patience to do so much of this stuff. Mm-hmm. I don't have the patience to do the breads and stuff that they do. The doughs.
No. Bread is not easy. People think bread, people who don't deal with bread every day like bakers and things like that, people think, oh, bread's easy. It is not. It is not easy at all.
And good pizza dough isn't easy either.
No.
Now, Dan did show this last year how to make a 1-hour pizza dough that was fairly good. Mm-hmm. But most of the time, the one that they use is a fermented one that sits in the refrigerator for 48 hours before it's being used.
Right.
Some of the stuff that they do, they make look so easy, and it can be. I mean, there's several things I've learned since becoming a test kitchen person. 1, prep. Always prep your ingredients before you cook. It makes it so much easier to do. I actually went out and bought a bunch of prep cups. And
when you think about it makes so much sense, because if you're in the middle of doing something and you all of a sudden realize you've forgotten to get out the cream of tartar, and you have to go looking for that while something's on the stove and something else is in the mixer and everything's going on at the same time, and now you're tearing the cupboards apart trying to find the cream of tartar, something's going to go wrong.
Right, yeah.
So you should definitely have it all done beforehand.
Well, most recently, in addition to the shrimp scampi recipe, I made the recipe for Mexican wedding cakes, which is also Russian tea cakes.
Yes. He made that for me for Christmas, which is another reason that I love
She was missing them very much because her mom made them every year, and Mom passed away in November.
Yeah, my mom made Russian tea cakes at the holiday time, because it's kind of a holiday thing.
Yeah.
If somebody asked me to have them in July, I'd look at them like, what?
Oh, you've asked for them in July.
Well,
You're like, I want some Russian tea cakes.
Yeah, but but that's because I want it to snow. Because
I found the recipe for basically the same thing on Test Kitchen, made it, and she loved them.
I cried.
I didn't know they'd be any good because I was making it a hard way with no food processor at the time, which this was just last month. I have added a food processor. It's sitting out there in the box.
Yeah.
Don't try to make anything fancy without a food processor.
Yeah.
Rule number 2.
And also the other thing is, if you order a food processor in the mail, make sure you have somebody dumb enough to come with you to carry it. You can't see me, but I'm totally raising my hand right now.
I ordered
oh my gosh,
a Cuisinart food processor, the recommended one. and a new Dutch oven from Cuisinart also. It's the inexpensive one. I can't afford $350 for a Le Creuset. No. Problem is, I have not yet added my kitchen island. We've been trying to do this for a year. I have nowhere to put it. I have nowhere to put the food processor, because I thought I was going to do that during my vacation, and I couldn't find any that would deliver it at the right time. So now I have to wait till my next vacation, try to time it right. But because I love to cook, and I'm expanding my horizons and trying to do more. Oh yeah. Because we really need to do more than frozen foods and pre-prep foods, which we depend far too much on because we work so much and don't have time to cook. I really want to do that more though. But these are the two of the things I found out from them. The third one, always use fresh when you can. Yes. Because lime juice is a commodity that's easily purchased. Don't buy bottled, use real. Because like I said,
unless you're doing Chipotle lime shrimp.
Well, yeah, always use real, even if you are doing something simple. And parchment paper is a necessity if you don't want things to stick. I have learned that parchment paper, I got half sheet pans now to cook on, which makes it so much easier to do things. The parchment paper fits right in it. I have the sheets. I get the sheets. Mm-hmm. Nothing sticks. Everything cooks perfectly. I owe all this to my education from America's Test Kitchen, as well as other Food Network. Yeah, and
one thing that you definitely should do, though, if you're going to look at cooking more, seriously and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. If you're going to be doing things with knives, take a knife course.
Take a knife course and make sure your knives are sharp.
Yeah.
Because I've learned that you can't really do much with a dull knife.
Oh, you can. You can cut the dickens out of yourself.
I have a couple of Santukos that were given to me as Christmas gifts over the years that I keep in great shape now, and just I use those constantly. And they're chef's knives, obviously.
Yeah. They make it look really easy on TV, which is their job, and they've also been doing it for a long time. So,
Jean Pepin, not to slam on Test Kitchen, but Jean Pepin always uses a paring knife to chop things that are small, like a garlic clove. And I think that's a brilliant idea.
It is.
And it has made it a lot easier for me to do that. Mm-hmm. Although when I use the garlic, because they use sliced garlic in there rather than minced garlic in the shrimp scampi recipe, I actually used the slicer on the side of the grater because I nicked the heck out of my fingers, but it made the garlic perfect.
Yep.
And so, you don't get all that overwhelming bite. You just get this wonderful garlic
it's flavor. There, but it's not like right in your face.
I'm just trying to think of the.
I think another thing that we both learned from Test Kitchen, though, when it comes to ingredients, besides fresh and stuff like that, don't substitute. Don't start thinking, well, if
You should see the horror stories about that on the website.
Yeah. It's like, if you're going to make something, research what you're going to make. And if they tell you that you should get this brand or whatever, they're not just saying that because they're getting paid by these people. They're doing it because that's the best
Although
thing.
Sometimes you got to wonder, in all fairness, the number of OXO Good Grips thing they end up recommending is so crazy.
Yeah.
And, OXO's
except
not
for the fact that they're really good stuff. Yeah.
It is good stuff.
Where I'm coming from
but
is,
it's always funny because you think they're in a tank for them.
Where I'm coming from with that is if a recipe says you're supposed to use kosher salt, you don't have kosher salt, and you think, well, I'll just use table salt.
Half as much.
Don't do that.
Well, you can do that, but you got to remember to cut it in half.
But my point is, if it says margarine, and
I know. I see these recipes
butter
all the
and you
time
use margarine. Don't
on the website where you'll say, I tried this recipe and I substituted blah 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 blah, and it just didn't work. What happened? And the Test Kitchen people get on there. You substituted stuff you weren't supposed to be using.
Let me put it to you like this, okay?
Herbs are one thing. You can do herb substitutions without too much problem. I do, because Kim is allergic to rosemary. I often use thyme or parsley instead. But, that having been said, if it says melted butter and you use softened butter, or you use margarine or shortening instead of butter, you're not going to get the same thing.
No. If it says softened cream cheese, soften the cream cheese. Don't take it out of the fridge 10 minutes before you're going to
Right.
use it and decide that's soft enough. No. Let me put it in a way that this is a little...
Softened butter, softened cream cheese usually should be left on the counter overnight.
It's a little graphic, but if you go in for open heart surgery, would you feel really comfortable if the doctor was like, well, we didn't have enough stuff to just stitch you up, so we used duct tape? That might work on MacGyver. That does not work in real life. And it's the same thing with cooking. I mean, granted, that was as gross as hell, but I mean, it's accurate though. You can't.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you can substitute something very tiny, but
Yeah.
if it's something that
herbs are okay, like I said.
Yeah.
But sugar, flour, the certain type, like Test Kitchen makes it very explicit. They prefer that you weigh, although they'll give you the cup amounts. They prefer that you weigh flour for baking because it makes it easier and more precise.
Right.
And they will tell you all-purpose flour, bread flour, cake flour.
Right.
Those are 3 different things.
Yep.
Don't use a recipe that calls for cake flour and use AP.
Right.
It's not going to work.
I mean, just jumping back to that shrimp scampi recipe.
Yeah.
One of the big important ingredients
I
in
did
that
make
recipe.
a substitute in that.
What?
They used a dry white wine, but it did say on the actual recipe that a substitution of vermouth was
Right.
okay.
So we use vermouth.
It's cheaper and it was delicious.
Which turned out to be kind of a bear to get a hold of.
Yeah.
We weren't even going to do it because you couldn't find the vermouth.
I went to several places around here and couldn't find any. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Because I was intent on finding Test Kitchen's preferred vermouth. I could have gotten cheap stuff probably.
Yeah.
And I did. I mean, this was only $6, but
But my point being that you wouldn't be like, well, we can't get any vermouth. Let's use beer, or let's use Thunderbird, or something like that. You know, we're not going to do that because that's just dumb.
No, we're not.
Don't do that. You know, there's a reason that they have recipes, and there's a reason the recipe says do this, 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 use this, this, this. You know, and that kind of thing. Don't think you're smarter than the people that wrote the cookbook, I guess is basically what I'm saying, or do the TV show.
Let's get into the cookbooks for a minute. They have an incredible library of cookbooks. The 2 staples, actually there's 3 staples. The one that everything is in is, of course, America's Test Kitchen cookbook. And I would get the one right before the 20th anniversary and the 20th anniversary one. They're 2 different books. Normally they add all the recipes into every book, but this year they made a separate one for the 20th anniversary. It's got just the best ones plus a bunch of new stuff. Mm-hmm. The Cook's Country season by season one also, and the America's Test Kitchen Family Cookbook, which is a spiral bound book. These have their best stuff in it, and the recipes are always concise, easy to follow instructions, and really make it terrific. Mm-hmm. That having been said, they have so many specialty cookbooks out there that they're a blast just reading through them. There's simple. I want to make sure I have this right. The perfect cookie, the perfect cake, the perfect pie. These are their series of baking cookbooks that are out of this world awesome. Some of which they've not done on the show. So these are mostly collected from Cooks Illustrated. And they also have one that just came out called Ultimate Chocolate. I think it's called, which I know you want.
Yep.
It hasn't come down in price yet, but when it does, I'll get it.
No, that's okay. And the sad thing is, I probably won't even make anything out of it. I'll just look at it. And drool.
Because you can.
Like,
although the big ones from the TV show don't have that many pictures in them, they have a few. The ones that you get that are specialty are filled with pictures and diagrams and illustrations, and they're just amazing. I've never ever thought I spent a bad amount of money on a Test Kitchen cookbook.
No.
I have printed out so many recipes from the website that it's and used them that it's just the website pays for itself, for the yearly fee that I pay for. It just is the best cooking show on television. Mm-hmm. Like I said, there's a reason that they've lasted for 20 years and are probably going to be around for 20 more at least.
Yeah.
The reason is they're really good together, they're really entertaining, and the recipes are always dynamite.
Mm-hmm. And you can tell when you watch the show, they love what they do.
They do. So to all the gang that's been over there from the years, we love you, and we still haven't got to see the actual facilities out here at the Design Center. They had an open house in October. We had stuff going on and couldn't afford it or couldn't make it.
Yeah.
I'm going to try and go this year, hopefully, because they do like 3 days of fun stuff. You get to be there. They do Q&As. They had families come in. They have a tasting party, and they do all kinds of cool stuff. And I also want to point out that they have become a great site for young people.
Yes.
They launched America's Test Kitchen Kids in 2018 and watched it become probably the second most successful website, part of their website overall. The kids, the America's Test Kitchen Cookbook for Young Chefs, I read somewhere became their third biggest selling cookbook of all time. It's geared for chefs 8 to 14 years old, and they are regularly doing segments on the website and occasionally on the show with kids testing equipment and stuff.
Yep.
I don't know why, and maybe they're thinking about it, but I think I'm waiting for America's Test Kitchen Kids, the TV series.
I think that would be a terrific idea.
I think it would be an excellent addition to PBS's lineup.
I think it's a really great idea, the idea of getting children involved in the kitchen like that.
They run several workshops for kids, too, throughout the year.
For one thing, it also helps to get rid of that really tired gender idea that, only girls can cook.
Or only guys can cook.
Or,
only guys can be chefs.
Yeah, that kind of thing. And I think that that is going to, if you teach a kid at a young age how to, prepare food and how to appreciate food, then I think you're going to have a very well-rounded adult when it comes to, growing up and having an understanding of food and what goes into what you're eating. And I think that's a really great idea.
Yeah, I've also seen a few segments on free trial basis of the America's Test Kitchen Cooking School. It is run by by Bridget Lancaster, and it is available, I think, for $19.95 a month or $12.95 a month, something like that. And you can, they have, these are not just your average, little 4-minute videos. They take you step by step through every dish they're teaching you. And it is amazing, the number of people that have signed up for it. I only haven't done it because I don't have the time to watch it. If I ever don't have to work full time and have time to watch it and use it and learn from it, I will sign up in a second because I enjoy watching stuff like that. But it is also a huge success. Everything they've touched has become a success.
Yeah.
And they owe it all to the fans who love cooking shows and to the people from Chris Kimball all the way through to the current cast who have made it accessible, fun, enjoyable, and downright funny most of the time. There's always some humor in it. Yep. And it makes it, it's why Test Kitchen is now celebrating its 20th anniversary on the air. And we'll celebrate 20 more, I'm sure, in 20 years' time. By which case, we probably won't be here, but somebody will.
Don't say that.
Well, I mean, doing the show. I doubt we'll be doing it. Maybe we will. I don't know.
I don't know either.
We won't be that old.
No.
We have lots more coming up, so stick around.
Subject Cinema will be right back.
There's a lot of movie talk happening here. This is Subject Cinema.
All right, Kristen, I am so excited that you've decided to do a podcast with me, but what are we going to do a podcast about? There's so many other movie podcasts. We got to do something original.
Well, I'm a big fan of Disney movies. What about something like that?
That's just kid stuff. What do we want to do that for?
Did you know that The Avengers is a Disney movie? Or that Pulp Fiction is a Disney movie?
Pulp Fiction is not a Disney movie.
It's technically owned by Miramax, which is part of Disney.
We are still going to talk about the Disney animated movies, though, right?
I thought you said that was kid stuff.
Well, I've got 2 kids. I got to be a good dad and stuff.
So be sure to subscribe to the Walt Sent Me podcast, where we discuss the various subsidiaries of the Walt Disney Studios, including the animated movies.
It's available on iTunes, Podomatic, and wherever you find great podcasts. And I swear, it's not kid stuff.
Just when you think you've heard it all, we make sure there's more to hear. This is Subject Cinema.
Bonehead of the Week.
You know, I wonder sometimes what goes through Disney's head. Disney has been, remaking all their classic animation films.
Yep, into live action.
Into live action or pseudo-live action.
An unreasonable facsimile.
Yeah. I refuse to call it live action. It's CGI photorealistic.
Yep.
The Lion King is not a live action movie, despite the fact that they pushed it as such.
Nope.
It is, it's happening again. And this time, I'm like, oh, are you serious? This past Friday, it leaked out, thanks to Variety, that the next CGI photorealistic action remake,
etc., blah blah,
is Bambi.
Yep.
Really? So you're going to put kids through trauma in CGI, not just animation?
I was going to say, now with 20% more trauma.
Well, they can show blood now. They couldn't back then.
They couldn't back then. Spoiler alert, for those of you who don't know what happens in the movie Bambi.
Do not give away things. We don't do that here.
The most traumatic scene in the history of ever, or at least one of them.
See Animaniacs, Bambi's mom. You'll get the idea. Anyway.
Is not seen on screen.
No,
and if they put it in this movie, I am going to pitch the biggest bitch you've ever seen. I'm sorry, why? Why?
Yeah.
And why?
Yeah.
Considering the fact that Dumbo didn't do very well.
Well, it didn't do badly, but it wasn't the big hit that some of the other ones have been.
Nope. And more than
neither
one
was the more recent Maleficent sequel. So.
No. And more than one person was like, why the hell do we need to have a remake of The Lion King?
Yeah. It didn't do nearly as well as they planned.
Nope.
Mostly because people were going like, it's the same story.
Yep.
Yeah, well, it is.
And it's still
Bambi.
And it's still a rip-off of Kimba. No, I'm not going to give that up, so there. But seriously, I'm like, really? We're going to traumatize an entirely new generation?
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. It gets kind of interesting.
I can't
believe they're going down that road.
No.
We'll probably see it when it comes out. We probably won't have any choice, but I was never a big fan of the animated version myself. I don't know. Maybe it was me. My mom loved it. I don't know. Did you see it?
I actually don't know if I've ever seen the whole film.
All the way through?
Yeah. I've seen that scene.
Yeah. It'll eventually be on Disney Plus, I'm sure.
Which, I'm sorry, that I still don't know what the hell those people were thinking when they did that back when they did it. It's like, oh my gosh, what are you, serious?
I know.
So now we're going to traumatize an entirely...
The CGI photorealistic action remake. Not going to call it live action.
No.
Because some people actually thought they were going to do it with live animals.
Oh.
They had to clarify.
Oh, no.
They had to clarify the Variety story. At the bottom, it says, this story has been updated to reflect that Bambi remake won't actually be live action with a living deer, rabbit, and skunk.
Right.
So somebody must have actually thought that they were talking about real animals.
Right.
The animals will be real looking.
They will be very real looking, I'm sure. Real. But the issue is, we don't need this.
No. And so, that is why, to the Walt Disney Company, for their CGI photorealistic action remake of Bambi,
cash grab,
we give you this week's
Bonehead of the Week. T.C. Kirkham and Kim Brown. Subject Cinema.
Want to be a part of Subject Cinema? Then email us. Your ideas, suggestions, and comments keep us going. SubjectCinema@PNRNetworks.com. Keep connected to Subject Cinema and all the great PNR Network shows and sites. Hook up with us on Facebook. Facebook.com/Popcorn and Roses. That's popcorn, the letter N, roses.
Subject Cinema.
quick Rising Star update. Remember, guys, listen to our Rising Stars show on Labor Day. We, for the first time this past year, named a young wrestler named Marco Stunt to our list.
Mhm.
If you don't know who this guy is by now after this last week, you're probably living under a rock.
Yeah, you're not
Marco
wrong
was
about
the
that.
hit on the Jericho cruise with Chris Jericho and company. They cruised to Bahamas. They had the live, well, it wasn't live, it was taped.
Live
the day
to
before
tape.
because they didn't want to deal with, any possible screw-ups. They actually did this week's AEW Dynamite show on Wednesday night on the ship.
Mhm.
And Marco was the hit of the cruise. Everybody's
Yeah.
been, Marco's been open about having depression problems because here's a guy who's 5'2". I mean, he's tiny, literally. He looks like he could easily pass for a 14 or 15-year-old. He wears kids' clothes. He admits that. But he's 23 and he's a professional wrestler.
Yep.
He's also, as many people found out for the first time, we've known for a while, he's a great singer, a songwriter, a winner of his talent contest at home in Olive Branch, Mississippi. It took me a second to pull it up. Twice, actually, while he was in high school. And he performed with Jericho's band this year. He got up, Jericho and him, he was on Jericho's podcast a couple of weeks before the cruise, and Jericho invited him to sing with Fozzy, which is Jericho's band. And they were doing the 80s cover night that night, and Marco got up and did Sunglasses at Night. And before he even got off stage, Jericho had sent word without asking Marco to the promoters, I want him to have his own show next year.
I think that's amazing.
Now Jericho is it's hard to believe, but of this generation, he's kind of like the stalwart.
He's one of the elder statesmen
he's 50
now.
He's an elder statesman.
Sorry,
in the
Chris.
Group. Almost 50. I don't think he's quite 50 yet. He's an elder statesman in the current world of wrestling. And he has taken to Marco so much, and so have the Dudleys and a few other people who really love the fact that this kid is out there risking his neck and nearly killing himself doing his job with AEW, but loving every second of it. His brother is out there too, calls himself Logan Stunt. I'm so happy that Marco has come back from that. So many fans were giving him crap, so many wrestling writers were giving him crap for his size and not being able to be realistic, fitting in.
Yeah.
And as somebody said on Twitter this week, it's like, my God, he is more over now than he has been.
Yep.
Because he's just being himself on this cruise.
I have actually brought up Marco's situation.
She's talked about Marco 3 times on Ring Around the Rosie.
Yeah. If you'd like to go listen to it, you can go check out my shows. TC's put them up, and you can read the synopsis, and you can see where my feelings about Marco and the people who have hated on him, who are a bunch of jealous clowns, are very clear.
Follow him on Twitter.
They are
He's hilariously funny, too.
Also, my shows are not safe for work.
Yeah. You definitely want to follow Marco on Twitter.
Yes, because he's very funny.
At Marco Stunt, Marko Stunt.
Yeah.
You can look him up if you can't find him. Look
I
up
think
Mr.
the only
Fun
other
Size.
person that was so over and more talked about at the cruise
was the little kid dressed as
the little
Darby
kid
Allin.
dressed as Darby
I know.
Allen. Oh my gosh, that was the cutest
And
thing
there's
ever.
a picture of Marco and the little kid, too.
That is the cutest thing ever.
Anyway,
So
Marco,
cute.
congrats on this
Yeah,
deal.
definitely. You
I
deserve
really
it,
think
bro.
you ought to be pursuing a recording career as well as everything else, because I've been finding some of your stuff online, and I think this is something. I mean, this all started because he put up a little clip of a song he wrote a few weeks ago on his Twitter, and people were going nuts. It's like, oh my God, why aren't you recording? Where are you? He's got a beautiful voice, and go out there, and the AEW music director sent him a tweet. He's like, we need to talk.
Yeah.
So I just got this gut feeling sometime before the end of the year we're going to see an album from Marco Stunt. Let's hope. And let's hope he does really well next year on the Jericho cruise.
Yeah.
I would love to go. I don't think we're going to be able to afford it because they're really expensive.
No.
But they're like $6,000 with everything included.
Marco really tends to favor like 80s music and stuff like that.
When he's on stage.
Yeah,
and
which
listening.
is yeah.
But he does his own original
and he does
stuff
his own singing, which is great for 80s music and stuff. To Marco, I would like to send out this is just a kind of a song pun, I suppose, but don't stop believing. Because I'll tell you what, we're never going to stop believing in you, buddy.
No. Good luck and congratulations.
Remember, we are the reason films were invented. We're the audience. This is Subject Cinema.
Want to listen to Subject Cinema on the go? Check out Stitcher. You can access all the latest episodes right from iPhone or Android. Check it out. Click on the Stitcher logo on our sidebar or go to Stitcher.com and search for your favorite PNR Network show. Get started today.
We're the podcast version of your office water cooler. This is Subject Cinema.
Okay, so let's get on out of here for now.
Yeah.
We have a few passages we're going to bring up next week as we kick off February. And February, we're doing this different than we've ever done it before. We previously had done like one show, maybe two, with all of the January film festivals squished in. This year, we elected to try something different, and we hope that you will join us all throughout Festival February.
Yep.
Each week, we will feature a couple of different festivals: Sundance, Slam Dance, Santa Barbara, Palm Springs, Big Sky, Berlin Ale, number of other ones, all happening between now and between the 1st of January and now and into February. We'll go over some of the titles that got this year we're going to do it post-festival, so we'll be able to get the reactions of the critics, what some of the critics thought were good, what other people didn't think were so great, mixed reviews, and we'll give you all kinds of spotlights as we go through the next 4 weeks.
Yep.
It should be a lot of fun. Don't forget, there is this thing we have called the Patron Circle, and we want you to be a part of it. Patron Circle is $5 a month. That's less than one cup of latte. And think about that. You buy a cup of latte once or twice a day for 31 days. You've just paid for 3 years of Subject Cinema and all of the rest of the PNR Networks families. You know? Come on. Come on board. It's $5 a month. It helps us pay our expenses, helps us upgrade, helps us do some other stuff. We are at a point where we are seriously needing some help doing this, keeping it going full time. We got more stuff we want to do. We got more stuff in the pipeline, but we cannot do it without your commitment, without your help. $5 a month is like a drop in the bucket, and we won't send Sarah McLachlan singing at you.
Okay.
So come over and click on the site, or go over to patreon.com/PNR Networks. You're supporting all of our programming, all of our websites, Eric and Valerie Lyons' Cavebabble show, and Anthony Lamberti and his new comic Grotto show, or Nerd Grotto show, which is coming in February, and helping us to spread the word. I mean, I made a couple of breakthroughs in January. We actually got a couple of studios on board for helping out with publicity and stuff. That's the most we've ever been able to do. And I've been working on this for 15 years, people. And I'm just now, I mean, we've had a lot of the indies over the years. We still do. But this was one of the big five. And I'm like, oh my God, they finally said yes. That's a breakthrough.
Yep.
And I'm keeping that going. I'm not going to tell you which one, because it's not important to you. It's important to me, because they've rejected us 4 other times. And it's like, okay, this is a big thing. We want to keep momentum going. If you cannot, for some reason, see it in your heart to give us $5 a month, and I really hope you do, we do ask that you do a couple of other things for us. Number one, write to us, subjectcinema@pnrnetworks.com, and tell us what you like about the show, what you don't like about the show, what you'd like to see us doing on the show, what you'd like to see on YouTube and our other sites. Because this is important. We can't do a great job if you don't give us feedback. We haven't heard from anybody in over a year. We used to have a regular group of people writing, and we don't anymore. And we need to hear that. That feedback is what helped us keep our show going.
Yep.
Second, when we tweet something, sign up for our Twitter. Mine is eCinemaOne and eCinemaBoston. Kim's is Platinum Roselle. And retweet those. Like them. Comment on them. Send them to your friends. Let them know, I love these guys. Take a look at their tweets. Do the same for Facebook. And then when it launches next month sometime, come over to our new Discord site and chat with us. We're going to be doing some, well, actually, that's going to be a patron circle thing. You can come over and chat with us. We're going to offer some special stuff, and there'll be general stuff and patron circle stuff. And we hope that you'll come over there as well.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of things in the pipeline. We'd like to do more festivals. We'd like to help more festivals by being able to give them some financial help and support. And by doing so, promote our own brand as well and help get it out there. We would very much like to do some new projects. We still have Your Imagination Theater coming.
Mm-hmm.
It's not coming as fast as we hope because I haven't had time to get the scripts finished, but it will be coming. And we are looking, we have finally got all the setup we need for a Let's Play channel. That's something we have been thinking about. Not sure we're going to do it yet. There's all kinds of stuff we can do, but we need your support. At $5 a month. If every single listener out there, according to the stats, for all of our shows, gives $5 a month, we're going to more than make our expenses and have enough to do everything we need to do.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have a huge listenership overall compared to Adam Carolla or one of those people. We've been here for 15 years. We know that we have a good following, and we know that following likes what we do because they keep downloading, they keep listening, and now we ask you to please support us financially because we really need the help. Patreon.com/PNRNetworks. Our other shows.
Our other shows include my show, Platinum Rose's Garden, which is my supernatural podcast, and Ring Around the Rosie, which is my wrestling podcast. And I also have a new channel on YouTube called Platinum Rose RolePlay.
You guys have got to go listen to RolePlay. If you do nothing else this week after listening to the show, go to Platinum Rose RolePlay on YouTube and listen, comment, share, subscribe. She's great. These are great RolePlay stuff. You'll get a big kick out of them.
He's being really kind.
I'm not being really kind. I'm being honest.
And TC has some solo work as well, including his Tuesday Digidex and 3-Minute Weekend, which are shows that can help you decide what movies you'd like to go to the theater to see or rent or things like that, which is really useful for people.
Yep.
And also,
I've also, because I was scheduled to come back last week, we didn't get a chance to do it, and I'm going to wait now again. Catastrophe Vortex is coming back probably in March. I really wanted to get it done. Things are not coming together the way I'd hoped for, and it just time wise and stuff. It will be back, I swear, and it will be back soon. And so, by the way, will our Roku channel. If you like on Roku, we do have a private channel where you can listen to our stuff. We haven't promoted it for a couple years. I'm in the middle of revamping it. It will relaunch in March as well. So be watching for that, and hopefully you'll enjoy being able to pull up our stuff. Just boop on your Roku. Listen right there on your TV.
Yep.
That it?
I think so.
All right. I smell some good food cooking. Let's get out of here. For Subject Cinema, I'm T.C. Kirkham.
I'm Kim Brown.
May your popcorn always be buttered.
And may your roses always be in bloom.
Test Kitchen. Love their food.
Bye, guys.
You have been listening to Subject Cinema with hosts T.C. Kirkham and Kim Brown. Subject Cinema is produced by PNRNetworks, Boston, Massachusetts, which is solely responsible for its content. Subject Cinema is copyright 2020 by PNRNetworks under a Creative Commons license. Check out a new episode of Subject Cinema every weekend. Until next time, this is Bob Taylor for Subject Cinema, and we'll see you at the movies.
Okay, I love you. Bye-bye.
15 years, blowing the doors off the competition, podcasting to planet Earth.
PNRNetworks.com